Hello, reporter room investigators. Come on in, come on in. Oh my gosh, you guys. Make sure I have my mic on. Yes, I do. We we have so much to unpack. I was literally reworking what I was going to say today right up until the last minute. This case, everything is just flying by. And don't forget that on April the 9th, there's going to be a hearing, and I'm going to be live streaming it for you guys if you want to watch it. I'll be posting that with the schedule. I also do want to announce the winner of our giveaway. It is Barbara Young. And please DM me on Twitter at Davies Writer. You can see my handle scrolling there and claim your prize. You have 10 days, and then we go to the second choice. So I picked a second and a third choice on this giveaway. Okay, so I just want to tell you that today we're going to be talking about the defense team's motion to exclude all of the video evidence of the car traveling to the 1122 King Road home on November 13th of 2022. This could change everything in the trial. We're going to be talking about also the fact that the prosecution is now demanding that BK take the stand to establish his alibi. This also could turn this whole trial on his head, because if he does do this, if he takes the stand, then the prosecution obviously would have the ability to say what his alibi is. The prosecution would have the ability to cross-examine him. We're going to talk about Buddy the dog, who was found on October 21st, and what may have happened there. We're going to talk about the WSU crime lab with access to 5 different police department body cam footages, with somebody using that to hunt, and then new DNA evidence and the many, many coincidences that are adding up in this case. So come on in, tell me where you're from. My name is Jessica Davies. I'm an investigative journalist, and my job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects, and share with you how to do the same thing. If you have not subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. It's free. And it's free, and it helps me out a lot. Thank you to our mods. Let me see who's in here today. I know I saw Njaz. This is our head mod, Njaz. Thank you so much. And I don't know if Amelia's here. She's from New Zealand, so I don't know what time it is, but I know Brother Mike will not be here. But thank you to everybody who's modding today. Thank you to our channel members and subscribers. And obviously, I'll be checking in with you guys throughout this live stream. So today, we have so much to unpack. Let's go ahead and get started with all of the information, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 packages, and I want to try to get through all of it for you guys.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Davies.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me turn the volume up in case I have to play anything later today. Okay, so we're going to start. We have a lot, obviously, to dig into. We're going to start at the latest breaking news, which is that BK and his defense team, they want to change everything. They are attacking key pieces of video evidence in this trial. So let me just start with that. I'll start with the article. Let me see. Let me take this down and pull this up. Okay, so my sourcing on this is Fox 13 out of Seattle. And so what they're going after is the video footage. Now, they filed a new motion yesterday surrounding the surveillance footage on the apartment complex on Linda Lane, just a few hundred feet away from the 1122 King Road house, where the 4 roommates, Xana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Maddie, were all done away with. The footage supposedly shows a driver circling the students' homes, we know 1, 2, 3 times just before the crime happened. So Ann Taylor does not want this video to come in. Remember, if it's good for the defense team, Ann Taylor wants it to come in. If it's bad for the defense team, Ann Taylor does not want the jury to see it. In this case, she does not want the jury to see this. So I'm assuming that it's going to be bad. Now, I do have to talk about this case in terms of Bryan Kohberger, because he is the person who's on trial. He's the person whose attorneys are making motions in his name. So, but I do want to make it very clear that he is innocent until proven guilty. So this was talked about on Fox 13's Inside the Idaho documentary, as well as online. But BK wants the footage excluded. Now they're claiming the prosecution handed over. This is the reason they want it excluded. They are saying that the prosecution handed over a 12-hour long raw video to them and that they don't have enough time to sort through and examine the relevant parts. Now, I'm not clear with 4.5 months to go, 4 months to go. The jury selection, I think, is supposed to start on July 30th. I'm not really clear on why they wouldn't be able to go through this. But get this, they've made the same exact objection to the 9 other security camera videos, all from the night of the crimes. And again, if it's good for Bryan Kohberger and the defense team, they want it to come in and they want the jury to see it. If it's bad for Bryan Kohberger and the defense team, they want to object and keep this footage from coming in. So this, if the judge decides that he's going to keep this footage from the jury from seeing this footage, this could change everything. But we're not done, you guys, because let me grab this one. Prosecution's also making motions. So let's go through that. This is Bill Thompson, and it's signed by, looks like, I don't know who that is. Stacy, it looks like. So this is the state's reply to the defense objection to the state's motion in limine regarding the alibi. Okay, so this was served to Ann Taylor. Okay, so this is, I'm not, come now, we know that part. The Latah County prosecuting attorney, let me make sure we're all looking at the same thing. Okay. Prosecuting attorney submits the following in reply to the March 17th, 2025 defendant's objection to the state's motion in limine alibi. Okay, the defense objection response to the state's motion offered nothing new or substantially different. In fact, defendant appears to now acknowledge that he does not have any witness, potentially other than himself, to establish where the defendant was, quote, at the time of the alleged offense. So this is, in my opinion, they are like really going after whatever they think Cy Ray is going to say here. The prosecution is. Because, you know, that's who's supposed to be providing BK with his alibi, right? He was out stargazing, driving around on a foggy night. So Ann Taylor had to put him in the car because, in my opinion, she wants all these videos excluded. And please don't hate the messenger here. I'm just going to bring you all of the information. If you're a critical thinker and you want to have all the information so you can make up your mind, then you are in the right place. But, you know, Ann Taylor put him in the car driving around. He likes to stargaze, according to her. He's always liked to take long drives. And I guess one of my questions, if I were on the jury, tell me if you would have a question, but this would be my question. My question would be, did he continue to enjoy long drives after this crime was committed? Or did the long drive stop for any period of time? So anyway, let's go back to this. So the defendant's objection response to the state's motion, they say, offers nothing new or substantially different. In fact, the defendant appears to now acknowledge that he does not have any witnesses, potentially other than himself, to establish where the defendant was, quote, at the time of the alleged offense as required by Idaho Code 19-519 and IRC 12.1. Partial corroboration does not, they have this underlined, I just want to like show you that, does not cover the time alleged in the state's charging documents. So it sounds like whatever Cy Ray is agreeing to testify to does not cover what the state is saying is the actual timeline of when these crimes committed. And is this why Ann Taylor wants this car video footage removed? Because that would help establish a timeline, right? So the prosecution continues. Or any affidavit in support of searching and seizing Mr. Kohberger's person or property, the defendant's objection at page 2, emphasis added. So this does what they're saying is that what Cy Ray is going to show does not cover the time in the state's charging documents or any affidavit in support of searching and seizing Mr. Kohberger's person, so that's arresting him, or property. A defendant's objection at page 2. So if they make it so that Cy Ray can only testify generally, or Cy Ray's not going to cover the times of the crimes, if the prosecution is right, that changes everything on this trial, because it means Bryan Kohberger has no alibi for the crimes. And this is the prosecution's assertion, not mine, but this does change everything. At best, this is the prosecution saying this. Now, just because the prosecution says this doesn't mean it's true. The judge gets to decide what comes in and what the jury sees and what the jury doesn't see. But the prosecution continues here. At best, the witness mentioned by the defendant, Cy Ray, can only testify generally to his opinion about where the defendant was during the early morning hours of November 13th of 2022. So if he can only say what his opinion is, that is an expert opinion. So I don't know what the judge is going to say about that, but it's maybe not falling under the alibi, what's required in Idaho for an alibi. And again, we'll see what the judge decides on this. Prosecution continues. Based on the evidence, we know for a fact that a cellular analysis cannot show where the defendant was, quote, at the time of the alleged offense, they have that in quotations, as required by the applicable statute and court rule, because the defendant's cell phone was turned off during that time. So did Bryan Kohberger, should he have left his cell phone on and maybe left it at home? Because then the prosecution would have to prove he wasn't there. It sounds like to me what the prosecution wants is they want to get Bryan Kohberger on the stand, or they want to get a credible alibi that they can go up against. Just, somebody sharing their opinion and then saying that his phone was off. Now, they're not saying it was in airplane mode. They specifically say turned off. And we've been wondering this whole time if it was in airplane mode or if it was turned off. And according to the prosecution, the phone was turned off during that time. Based on the above and the extensive history of repeated attempts to get the defendant to comply with the disclosure requirements of Idaho Code 19-15 and IRC 12-1, the court should enter an order prohibiting the defendant from presenting any evidence other than from the defendant himself, whether by direct or cross-examination, in support of any alibi regarding the specific place or places at which the defendant claims to have been at the time of these alleged offense. That's all in quotation. So they are citing this. So as referenced by as required by the reference statute and court rule, as directed by the Honorable John Judge, February 23rd of 2024, quote, order setting deadlines and hearings, and as discussed in the state's April 26, 2024 response to notice defendant supplemental response to the state's alibi. And this was submitted on the 21st by the prosecutor, William Thompson. So what they're saying is that John Judge gave Bryan Kohberger, they have to supply an alibi. And the reason that Idaho requires this, and most states in the United States require this, is because they don't want to go through all the expense of getting ready for a trial, all the expense of seating a jury, all the expense to having a trial, to only have the defendant say, yeah, but I was at the 7-Eleven that night and I'm on camera. There is a deadline. You have to file it by a certain point. Now that deadline came and went, and John Judge extended the deadline to Bryan Kohberger. And then we got the stargazing. And then Ann Taylor said a couple of weeks after that she wanted to add on to that alibi, but she never did. So what the prosecution says is they've had their time to submit an alibi. All they've come up with is driving around. Then they said Cy Ray was going to provide him with an alibi, but he can't because the phone was off. So this is not me saying this. This is not Ann Taylor saying this. This is the prosecution. So, we'll see what the judge decides. It's going to be up to him to decide how he wants to proceed on this. But I do think that's, what we're seeing flying around right now, you guys, is very, very interesting. So there is a hearing on April 9th. We will hopefully hear what the judge's ruling is on this. I'm going to be just describing this. So let's talk about Buddy the dog, and then we're going to talk about the WSU Crime Lab after that. So please stay with me. I'm getting through all of this, starting with the most breaking news and moving onward. So I don't know what you guys think. Is stargazing and driving around, is that really an alibi? The prosecution says no. Ann Taylor said she wanted to add on to it, but never did. So anyway, it'll be up to the judge to decide. And then I am going to check in with chat. Let me take this down. Okay, so let's talk about Buddy. All right, let me move myself out of the way. Let's see if I bring myself down here. I think I can still talk to you without blocking it. Okay, so let's do that. Okay. So we're going to talk about Buddy the dog. This is one of Buddy's owners. Okay, so let me pull that up and tell you what the deal is with Buddy the dog. So I was on the phone with the state of Idaho, the court yesterday, trying to get some other information that I was looking for, but I also wanted to try to get information on Buddy the dog to see if I could, do a FOIA request on this case. And I cannot, and I'm not really clear on why I can't get a FOIA request on this. I'm going to, so I'm wondering if this is coming in as part of this trial. And I'll tell you why I think that this could be the case. I don't know. But based on the prosecution, so Buddy the dog was found on October 21st. He was found filleted. And, trigger warning here. Near the 1122 King Road house. He was a Australian shepherd. He was just 12 years old. And his owners, Jim and Pam Colbert. I don't know if they say Colbert or Colbert, but it's spelled Colbert, let him out in the backyard like they always do in their home, from their home in Moscow, Idaho. And they said that they called the sheriff's office and the supervisor, and because their dog disappeared out of their yard. And so we know that Bryan Kohberger got into an argument with a professor that he was TAing. He was a teacher assistant for on a September 23rd. But on October 21st, and the reason that date is significant, this is the date Buddy disappeared out of his yard, Bryan Kohberger was emailed by another professor about the, quote, ways in which you have failed to meet your expectations as a teaching assistant thus far in the semester. And my source on this is the Washington Times. Let me see if I can pull that up for you. Yep. Let me take this down for a second. Okay. I'm just waiting for it to populate. It's thinking. There it is. Okay. Make sure we're all looking at the same thing. It's saying that it cannot capture my screen. Try again. Okay, so let me try again. Okay, it's there. All right, so here, my source on this is the Washington Times. There's the sourcing. So the newspaper obtained a copy of WSU's December termination letter that detailed BK's failure to meet the norms of professional behavior. And this was dated just weeks before he was arrested at his parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. He first got into an argument with his professor on September 23rd. And then he was emailed by another professor on October 21st. Now, this is the same day that Buddy disappeared from his yard. And we know that people that commit crimes like this, and now BK is innocent until proven guilty, but we know it's not unusual for them to start with animals. So he gets this letter on October 21st about the ways he had failed to meet his expectations as a teaching assistant thus far. I think this would have enraged him. And I'm just wondering why I can't get access to Buddy's case. I called yesterday trying to get access, um, trying to get a FOIA request, couldn't even put in a FOIA request for it. BK was put onto an improvement plan on November 2nd through the 11th. So this is just in the days leading up to the crimes, right? The crimes started on, the 12th into the 13th. The crime was committed on the 13th, but it was overnight. So one day after he's put on this improvement plan, these young people are all done away with. So making a second argument with the same teacher on December 9th motivated the university to fire him for not making progress regarding professionalism. So he was ultimately fired. An investigation into his conduct around female students was also discussed during an end-of-year meeting with WSU Criminology Department. And we're going to talk about the WSU Crime Lab next. And then we're going to talk about a lot of coincidences in this case, so please stay with me. According to people familiar with the meeting who spoke with the New York Times, the faculty talked about a female student's accusations that Mr. Kohberger followed her to her car. WSU did not find Mr. Kohberger guilty of any wrongdoing during its investigation. Female students at the University of Idaho had previously said that Mr. Kohberger made them uncomfortable because he stared at them on campus. So this is not the WSU. These are the three females, according to the New York Post, and two young females, according to the other outlet that I shared with you in a prior live stream, that said that Bryan Kohberger was sitting inside at inside the campus of the University of Idaho, where he had no business to be there. He was in their cafeteria sipping on water, and yet he made them uncomfortable. Now, this making someone uncomfortable is not a crime, but it does, in my opinion, show that he was there on campus. And I'm just wondering, who else was in that cafeteria? Mr. Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home on December 30th. So a combination of cell phone records, surveillance footage of his car, and DNA found on the knife sheath at the scene led the police to Mr. Kohberger. According to a probable cause affidavit released following his January 5th court hearing, he has not yet entered a plea. And as I shared with you guys on the last live stream, Ann Taylor wants to have, she tried to get the van's shoe print thrown out. I still have people telling me that this helped Bryan Kohberger. If it helped Bryan Kohberger, why would Ann Taylor be trying to get this thrown out? In my opinion, the van shoe print doesn't help Bryan Kohberger. That's why she didn't want it to come before the jury. If it was a different size shoe than what he wore, that would help. I've also had people telling me that he wears a size 10, and I've just want to share the sourcing with what I found, which is that no, he does wear a 13. And let me see what my sourcing is. I was able to confirm this. According to Fox News, quote, Kohberger wound up getting a job for the Pleasant Valley School District, starting out as a casual security guard and then earning a promotion to part-timer. This is an exact quote from Fox News. The district outfitted him with size 13 boots, several extra large shirts, a jacket, pants with a 34-inch waist. So I just wanted to share that with you because I do think that, it's important to have things out. So this is really disturbing, you guys. Okay, so this dog, and remember Bryan Kohberger, he worked as a fish fillet, but I'm not even going to talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that he also worked at a butcher shop. Okay. Let me make sure we're all looking at the same article. Yeah, we are. Okay, so is this relevant? And, is there no FOIA requests for some other reason? Or am I not able to put a FOIA request in because this is being used at the trial to show something? I don't know. Was his phone pinging in the vicinity on that day? I don't know. But this is from his owners, Jim and Pam Colbert. I'm just going to say Colbert because I don't know if they say Colbert or Colbert. If it depends. They said we called the sheriff's office and supervisor and said that Buddy had been skinned. This is Pam told the news site. Now, my sourcing on this one is Fox News. Pam said, trigger warning here, Buddy had been cut like a filleted fish. We found his collar, but we didn't find his pelt. So, souvenir? Remember, there was a pet hair found at BK's apartment. If that links back to Buddy, the dog, or to Murphy, that could be significant. A Latah County Sheriff's deputy confirmed to the Daily Mail that Buddy's the person that who did away with Buddy was a human being. Some people have said no, it was animals. No, the Latah County Sheriff's Office said it wasn't, that it was human. So somebody did this on the October 21st, the same day that BK's told that he's failing. And remember, he gets more bad news on the 12th, and on the 13th, Ethan, Kaylee, Sienna, and Maddie are all done away with. Coincidence? I don't know. I just going to share with you, and then we're going to talk about the WSU crime lab. So they said everybody is nervous and scared. Pam said of her dog and the quadruple passing away, done away with. This is something awful and evil. The couple, who have lived in their home on 10 acres for 39 years, started locking their doors for the first time after Buddy passed. Watching my words here. Pam said that after letting Buddy out, now remember, this is in their own yard, their own fenced yard. Remember, he's 12 years old, so they've had him for a good long while. He did not return. She said, we let Buddy out and someone must have been waiting out there. Bud never leaves the yard, but this person grabbed Buddy. Later that night, Jim and his friends started searching for the dog and made the grisly find. Quote, this is from Pam, the other side of him was as though they had filleted him, like they were going to ingest him, eat him. It was terrible, unbelievable. At a press conference Sunday, the police said they have not identified any suspects or persons of interest. Now, this is a while back, and we now know that they did ultimately identify Bryan Kohberger and ultimately arrest him. But this was, I think the timing on this is really, really interesting. So let me take this down. We're going to talk about the WSU next, but I just want to, this is Buddy. And I just, we know people that commit crimes like this. Let me just show you the map. Let me move myself out of the way. This is how close this was. It's 3 miles away from the 1122 King Road house. So was the phone pinging in that vicinity? And is this being brought into the trial? And is this why I'm not able to get a FOIA request done on this case? Or, is there something else? I did try to find out yesterday. I called and I asked, and I just, couldn't get an answer as to why I was not able to put in a request for information on this case. So I thought that was very, very interesting. And I think the timing is really interesting because we have this, the 21st, he received this email from WSU informing him that he failing to meet expectations. So let's talk about what Bryan Kohberger did. He worked for 7 months at Big Brown Fish and Pay Lakes in 2011 and 4 months in the butcher and produce department at BJ's Wholesale Club in Strasbourg in 2015. So people said, well, he didn't work at the fillet thing. The owner said he wasn't good at his job. Okay, fair enough. But what about this 4 months in a butcher and produce department at BJ's Wholesale Club in Stroudsburg in 2015? Does that show somebody that would be able to do something like this? And again, people that do stuff like this, that commit crimes like this. And remember, as soon as this was over and done with, and after we saw this picture, we're going to talk about WSU next. I'm just trying to get through everything I can. As soon as we all saw this picture that was taken that morning, people have said, well, he's not left-handed, he's right-handed. I don't know if this picture is a mirror image or not. Sometimes you'll see me with my hat, the letters are backwards, and sometimes it's straight. And it just depends on if I remember to click the image box or not before I went live. And some days I forget to do it, and my reporter room hat will be backwards. So I don't know how this picture was taken. I don't know if it, if if it was flipped. So people are asking me, is he right-handed or left-handed? I don't know. I don't know if this is his right or left hand either. But I do see blistering, as I showed you guys. For those of you that missed it, I'll just show it so you don't have to go look at it again. I enhanced all the photos. In my opinion, there are blisters on the inside of his thumb, and I don't know if this is his right or left hand. Don't know if he's right-handed or left-handed. I'm sure but there is a blister there. Let me just show you. I enhanced it, and it's there. It's there. So, and then some people thought they saw something on his neck, like a bruise or something. I enhanced that, and maybe, so, but clearly, if you look here, you can see there are what looks to be 2 blisters right here. So I don't know which hand he writes with. I don't know which hand this is a shot of, because I don't know if he had mirrored set on his phone or not. And like I said, depending on if I've clicked that box or not, my hat will either be straight or it will be backwards. I can't remember today if I did, because I had so much stuff going on before I went live. I was worried I was going to be late, and I just jumped on. Okay, so let's talk about that CSI crime lab, and then we're going to talk about all the coincidences that are adding up in this case, and we'll also talk about the DNA evidence. Let me check in with chat too. Let me pull up this WSU crime lab. So we're going to dig into that next. So what do you guys think about Buddy the dog? Also, please tell me where you're from. Come on in, tell me where you're from. Sorry, I'm forgetting to do the social media. I'm a little flustered. But do you think Buddy the dog has anything to do with this crime? And do you think the October 21st date is significant, or is this just, a red herring? Let me check in with chat, and then we're going to talk about WSU next and the crime lab. The crime lab, you guys. Let me go. I'm behind on chat. Let me back up and grab a sip of water. Turn this off. Okay. Whew. So we're going to talk about the CSI crime lab on the WSU campus in the criminology department where Bryan Kohberger works, that had access to 5 different law enforcement body cams. So thank you so much to our head mod, Njaz. I really appreciate you modding today. Let me see. I'm trying to get to the beginning. Okay, there I am. I'm to the beginning. Christine is here. Thank you for being here, Christine. Come on in, you guys. Hi, Sandra. Pepper's here. Thank you for modding. Holly's modding. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Kaylee, for modding. Thank you to all our mods today. Really appreciate you guys. Mike is here. Thank you for modding today, Mike. Katrina's here. We're going to dig into the WSU next, because 5 different body cam footages of 5 different police departments. Holly says, oh, he's done with, that's your husband. I'm so glad, Holly. I'm so glad your husband's doing well. Milo's here. Come on in. Tell me where you're from. I'll be Frank is here. Hey, Frank. Pam is here. Hi, Pam. Hi, Kathleen. Thanks for modding today, Pam. Blue is here. Bushi, great to see you. Firebird says, can't wait until he's charged. Well, he's been charged. He's been charged. Bushi says, congratulations on 40K. Thank you, Bushi. Mountains, it's Jess. Yeah. I'm glad you guys are here with me today. Kathleen is here. Annette's here. Thank you so much, Annette. I really appreciate your encouragement. Kelly is here. Thank you so much. RC3 is here. Yeah, the case is really weird. It is weird. It's weird in a way, but then it's not weird when you think about how people in the past have committed crimes like this, right? The WSU crime lab is also very interesting, but the thing with Buddy, and I did get the information for the FOIA request on everything else that I was looking for. I was able to get the FOIA request form for Bryan Kohberger, but I couldn't get one on Buddy the dog. Now, and I'm not sure why. And maybe it's not related, but I almost am wondering if this is something that we're going to see at the trial, and that, I'm not being given the ability to even put in a request for it. Because I could get a request for Bryan Kohberger, and I'm not going to get anything that's sealed, but I couldn't even put a request in for Buddy. I don't, and I got passed around to like 4 different people trying to get answers, on hold, while people were trying to, figure it out, because it didn't sound like they really knew why I couldn't get access to what happened to Buddy. Jen said, amazing that you are using his termination from WSU as if that happened. It's because he's autistic. And I don't, the big if that happened. I'm not really sure what you're trying to say there, Jen. I'm like, not sure. Blue says, think BK's older sister is going to give evidence against him. Well, get this. Okay, so that's the other thing. I have so much. I wasn't almost going to say that because I don't know if that's just major, but there was another motion where Ann Taylor, there's a dispute. She wants Bryan Kohberger's family to be allowed to sit in on the trial with the same rights that a victim's family has, so reserved seating. And the prosecution said no, because they were calling some of his family members to the stand, their witnesses, and that because they don't fall into the same category as victims' families, who I guess have a right to be there, even if they are a witness, his family members don't have that same right. They didn't want them sitting in there because they were going to call them as witnesses. So there's brouhaha about that too. So yeah, I don't know, Blue, if BK's sister is going to give evidence. There's been some reporting that his sister is the one that turned him in, but again, I have not been able to confirm that. So I'm just going to put a massive speculation warning on that. Hey, Christy. So yeah. Don says, I'm confident the judge won't allow this nonsense. And I'm assuming you're talking about the video. So let's think about what Ann Taylor wants suppressed. She wants the DNA evidence suppressed. She doesn't want it to be called touch DNA. She wants to call it trace DNA, even though the standard is touch DNA. She didn't want the Van's shoe print in. Again, if this footprint exonerated Bryan Kohberger because it was a different size, she would want that to come in. I think that's to me, it's telling. And then now she wants first she just tried to get one camera ruled out because it wasn't continuous. And I told you, I thought that was ridiculous. Of course, none of the camera footage is going to be continuous because nobody's following him around with a drone. There's not a news crew behind him. Nobody knew he was going to do this ahead of time. So of course it's not continuous. So now she's saying she just wants all of the camera footage to not be admissible because she doesn't have time to go through it. I don't have time to go through 12 hours of camera footage in its raw form. Therefore, it shouldn't be presented to the jury. That is her latest argument. So, I don't know what the judge is going to do with this, but I do think that this next hearing on April 9th is going to be interesting. I'm going to be streaming it. Blue, I saw your comment. Blue Nick, I think his sisters and his father. And it may be, they're just going to be testifying in some benign way. I don't really know. Thank you to NJAS for gifting a reporter room membership. And as part of our giveaway, beginning later this week, I'm going to be gifting away 10 different memberships. Pam from New York, thank you so much for your $9.99. She says BK's been getting thinner, she believes, from anxiety attacks. I do think he's lost weight. He was lost weight here, and then when he was in the jail in Latah County, in the mugshot that I used in the video that I put out yesterday, he looks good. He looks healthy. He's not too thin. His skin color looks good. But then when we see this, which is at 10:21 a.m., the morning of the crimes on November 13th, he looks very thin. He looks very gaunt. He looks very pale. So yeah. And then now he's losing weight again. Thank you to Gently Funked, best channel covering this. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your encouragement. And thank you, Jay, for the $1.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. I'm putting the super chats toward a new computer so I can stream the Bryan Kohberger trial on one computer and continue to create content on the other one. Yeah, lots of we're Mods R Us. That's our mod's name. Lots of Mods R Us. This is our head mod, NJAS. All right, so let's dig into this WSU, you guys. because I still have a whole bunch of stuff to get through. All right, let me pull that up next. And if you missed the breaking news, you can always back the chat up. All right. Hi, DM. Thank you so much for modding today. Hey, Cynthia. Okay, so let's get into this. Okay, so this is my sourcing on this is a UK paper. It's the Daily Mail. And I do need to grab a sip of water. Oh, that was a surprise. I'm drinking coffee. Okay, I'm grabbing coffee. Okay, so BK's WSU program could have given him access to a database of police body cam videos and campus security footage, according to an insider. So this is basically a whistleblower. So this is an employee at WSU. Now, WSU is vehemently denying that Bryan Kohberger would have had access to the CSI lab that was on the same floor where he worked as a teaching assistant in the criminology department. And this is for people in the criminology program. So Kohberger's PhD program maintains a database, and he was in the PhD program, of body cam and security footage. So police body cam and security footage is in this database. A university spokesman denied that BK would have had access to the footage, but an insider speculates that he could have accessed it without permission. The database does not include footage from the Moscow Police Department. So let's go through this, because was he hunting? A lot of people feel like the reason he was on the Idaho State, because he would have no business. People are like, well, maybe he was going to visit a friend. And, I'm sure if he was, Ann Taylor will put that friend on the stand. But, female students at Idaho State University have said that he was in their cafeteria in the student union when he was not a student there. So if he had a job interview, then he should have, he could have gone to his job interview. Why is he in the cafeteria sipping water? He's not eating food and making them uncomfortable. But this is really bizarre. But WSU wants you to know that there's nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. And maybe there isn't. So they maintain this database that includes police body cam footage and live surveillance video feeds, which an insider is saying that BK may have had access to. The WSU Complex Social Interaction Lab, which is called the CSI, so Complex Social Interaction Lab, and I'm sure they did CSI because it's a criminology program, maintains a database of body cam footage from 5 police departments, while another study operates a live feed of security footage from WSU campus. A WSU spokesman insisted to Fox News that Kohberger never had access to any footage from the CSI lab, but an insider told the outlet that the individuals on campus may have had access to the database without authorization. And when you see what's needed to get access, you can see how easy it is. And should anybody be having access to all this body cam footage? Because think about it, when you're young and you haven't really had time to build up a criminal record yet. So even if you could pass a criminal background check, and I'm not saying that this was even required or not, but even if they did a criminal background check and you had to pass that, would you have had time to do anything? It's just like letting the fox in the hen house. So I just want to make it clear, the CSI lab did not include footage from Moscow PD. Okay, so, but Kohberger was in his first semester of a criminology PhD program at WSU when the murders occurred. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that word. If you have little ones in the room, I apologize. On just 10 miles away from the WSU campus. The source quoted by Fox News, who works for the university, speculated that BK could have used the CSI lab to view unredacted images from crime scenes and other disturbing footage. So if somebody enjoys seeing something like this, you could see why maybe having access to this is not a great idea. But Phil Weiler, who is WSU's vice president, wants you to know, president of marketing. So he's marketing and communications. So he's in charge of marketing the school, told the outlet that BK never obtained entry to the programs that maintain the footage. And we heard the same thing from the Mad Greek owner, who also claimed that BK never was at the Mad Greek, even though we have a restaurant employee that says that he was there. So To be clear, Bryan Kohberger has never accessed any footage from the complex social interaction lab at the Washington State University. But so he's just saying all access is strictly controlled. All research assistants must complete a background check and FBI Criminal Justice Information Services Level 2 certification, be fingerprinted by the FBI, and sign a confidential agreement in order to enter the facility. But the insider says that multiple individuals who have not gone through vetting or training had access to the facility as a part of their duties, including technical support staff. And remember, Bryan Kohberger was a teaching assistant on the same floor where this CSI lab was located. So I don't, ethically, should people have access to this kind of information? I'm curious what you guys think. The prospect of somebody that would do a crime like what BK's been accused of to gain access to footage that shows, police responding to crime scenes is somewhat disturbing. And the insider told the outlet, this is Fox News, I don't think that any amount of positive research that could come out of this department is worth the risks of letting a wolf in the hen house. So the reason that this lab exists, according to the CSI lab, is that it's devoted to assisting police departments by using software to analyze police footage and giving results and guidance to better police departments. And remember, why did Bryan Kohberger apply for a job? He applied with Pullman Police Department. He wanted to help them solve crimes by using technology. The project includes body cam footage from 5 local police departments, but the Moscow PD was not part of the study. A separate WSU study of government studies and services maintains a live security feed from around Pullman. Last spring, BK completed his master's degrees at DeSales University in Pennsylvania, where he studied under famed forensic psychologist Catherine Ramsland, whose book include How to Catch a K and the Mind of an M. She also wrote a book based on her correspondence with Dennis Rader, the notorious BTK crimer. I'm going to watch my words here. And when he was at DeSales, BK took to Reddit in May with a post seeking criminals to complete his survey of how they selected their targets and carried out offenses. Now, I think this by itself, the fact that he had this post on Reddit, doesn't mean anything. But, if he did do what he's being accused of doing, we're going to talk about the coincidences next. I do think it's concerning. Previous experts have speculated in remarks to the Daily Mail that BK could have been drawn to in his interest to criminology for ulterior motives. Quote, this is according to Enzo Yasik, who's a criminal profiler and founder of Atypical Homicide Research Group in Boston. He said, quote, I suspect that Kohberger was well aware of his dark nature and homicidal ideation and endeavor to discover more about his studies. But pursuing an advanced degree to become a better crimer with an M is foolhardy exercise, as nothing more is learned about such tactics and strategies that can be found on a popular podcast or true crime book. So I do think that it's, and then, people have wanted to know the reason why. And Peter Yatsmech speculates that BK may have been trying to assert some type of dominance over the victims. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. And remember, we don't all have to agree. We're not going to all agree in every single case. So it's okay if you have a different opinion. Speaking to the New York Post over the weekend, Yakovitz said he believed that the how awful, I'm just going to watch my words, of the crimes and BK's history of social challenges may point to a possible motive. And I shared with you his history, which includes getting a camera. Includes tending and befriending a WSU colleague, staging a break-in into her house, installing security cam footage, and using her password, because he's installing this security, to then spy on her. He has a history. He was thrown out of his high school program for troubles with females, reportedly. And he had to finish his high school degree online. The Seven Sirens, owner of the Seven Sirens restaurant, said that they had a card on file about Bryan Kohberger in Pennsylvania at the Seven Sirens because Bryan Kohberger was known to, harass and make females uncomfortable. WSU, he was in trouble. This is why this October 21st incident happened, but he ultimately got fired as a teaching assistant because he was grading female students differently from males. So there's a history here, and I'm just wondering if Buddy the dog is going to be part of the trial. But Yamich said that he believes that that his social challenges may point to a possible motive. He said, "I believe a continued," and I'm just going to say stabby of a victim, I'm watching my words here, indicates an uncomfortable rage and extreme anger, noting that BK had been described as, quote, socially awkward with a long history of interpersonal problems. He said, quote, "I think he may have developed an incel complex. The murders may have been an effort to assert some type of dominance." The term incel is short for involuntary celibates. And I just want to be clear that there are lots of people who are celibate, either voluntarily or involuntarily, and most people don't commit any crimes like this. So I don't want to impugn somebody that's choosing to live in this lifestyle, but there is a certain level of misogynistic tendencies with Psychology Today reporting last year that men who identify as incels tend to have poor mental health and are more likely to experience feelings of victimhood, inferiority, and loneliness. So this isn't me saying this, I'm just reporting it out to you. So let me put this back up. Okay. I have so much more to go through. So let me know what you think about the WSU crime lab. Do you think he would have accessed that? Would that have been a temptation to want to access that? Yes or no? Do you think it would have been a good opportunity for somebody that committed crimes like these to pick a next victim to hunt? And why do you think he was on campus at the University of Idaho? People said, well, he might have been there for a job interview. Yeah, but nobody from the University of Idaho has come forward to say he was there for a job interview. And this information came out a while ago. So if he was there for a certain reason, why wasn't it said? So to me, the coincidences are starting to add up. And we're going to go through those next. Let me see where we are in chat. Let me see where I'm at. Heather says, you are all great here. I appreciate everyone being able to express their opinions and ask questions. Yeah, for sure, Heather. We're a true crime community. We want to be able to discuss cases and have different theories. We're not all, as a community, a true crime community, going to agree on every single case. We're not all going to have the same opinions. You might agree with me on some things and not on other things. And that's okay. We don't all have to agree. This is a critical thinkers channel for people who like to have all the information and make up their own minds. And I'm not here to tell somebody else what to think. So as long as opinions are expressed respectfully, that is good for me. I'm okay with that. Yeah, please give this a thumbs up. Let YouTube know we're doing a G-rated show. Let's see where Cynthia says, I'm confused about what the 4 people running away from the house on the Banfield video. I saw that video early on, and I just looked like, it's a college town. Idaho, University of Idaho is right there, and I think you're going to see kids on body cam footage. I don't necessarily means anything. They could have been out having a good time on the town. It was a weekend. So yeah. Bushi said, keep in mind the stars weren't visible that night as it was very cloudy. Yeah, let me pull that up. Let me pull that up. My search algorithm knows exactly what date I'm looking for before I even typed it in. That's pretty interesting. Okay, so let me share this. Let me take this down. Share this instead. Okay. So this is We're in the month of November 2022. So now I have to search out the date. And I want to see if I can get the date of the 13th. Okay, so what you can see is in Moscow, Idaho, for November 13th of 2022, starting at 12:30, there was ice fog, ice fog, ice fog, ice fog, overcast, ice fog, ice fog, overcast, overcast, ice fog, ice fog, ice fog. So I think this is going to be, and you can see my date here, which is November 13th of 2022. I think this is going to be a problem for Ann Taylor, and maybe why she, is wanting to, have Cyree come up, but the prosecution is not having it. They're clapping back saying, Cyree's not testifying as to exactly where he was because his phone was off. And they want Bryan Kohberger on the stand. That doesn't mean they're going to get it, but that's what they want. Can you guys see what I'm sharing with you guys? Can you see this, what I'm sharing with you guys? Can you see the weather? Yes or no? Can you guys see the weather that I just shared with you guys? Yes or no? Yes? Okay, thanks, and Jazz. Okay, I was looking for you. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that you should be able to see this weather. Let me move myself out of the way. Just so I don't want anybody to say, oh, she didn't. She put herself away. Okay, so this is the date, November 13th of 2022. You can see here, 12:33, ice fog, 12:53, ice fog, 1:53, ice fog, 2:53 a.m., ice fog, 3:17 a.m., overcast, 3:53 a.m., ice fog, 4:53 a.m., overcast, 5:53 a.m., overcast, 6:53 a.m., overcast, 7:25 a.m., ice fog. So I just don't think that this is going to be a great day to be out viewing the clouds, or a great evening. Thank you, Captain Freedom. So let me go back up. Bushi, thank you so much for the $2 super sticker. She said, did Buddy's owners have a daughter? I don't know. I do not know. I wish I had an answer to your question. Beth said, take a close look at his ring finger in that selfie. Let me see. See what could be a Band-Aid. I don't see a Band-Aid on his thumb, but let me see the ring finger. Let me take this down. And I enhanced all these photos. Okay, so there's the ring finger. I do see like a little blurry patch, but when I'm looking at it, I don't see a Band-Aid on the enhanced photos that I did. And then let's go to the where it should show up, which is right here. I do see what you're talking about. There's like a little bit of a line here. So I do see what you're talking about, but I can't for sure say I see a Band-Aid. Let me see if we go back to the original photo. I'm not seeing one. If you guys see one, that's okay. I'm looking at it and I just don't see it. I do see, like, here's where I enhanced it. I see a finger. I see his ring finger, but I don't see a Band-Aid on there. I do see what you're talking about. There does seem to be like maybe something on there. I guess it could be skin colored, but it seems like I would have picked it up here and I didn't. And it seems like I would have picked it up here and I didn't. I do see what you're talking about though. There's like, I can see why people might think that. So I don't want to. And then here's where it really should have shown up. And I can see what looks like a pretty definitive square on the ring finger in this one. So I can't say for sure, but let me know. Do you guys think there's a Band-Aid there? I do see blisters on this thumb. I see a blister above and a blister below, and it's really pronounced as I get closer in on these images. You can really see where there's a couple of blisters. So it looks like they're swollen, but it doesn't look like they popped. But I do see blisters there. Let me know what you see. And I don't know about the ring finger. I do see what you're talking about, though. When I look at that, I can see like a pretty definitive square on the ring finger. So I can see why you guys might think that. So yeah, great question. And I don't know if Buddy's owners had a daughter or not. If they did, they were older. I don't, and let me show you them. Okay. They are older, so even if they did have a daughter, she would have been older, so I don't know. There was no mention of a daughter, there was just mention of Buddy. And remember, when all this happened, nobody knew, what, who had done these crimes. So, anyway, good questions, you guys. Keep it coming. Eve says we need to have an investigative mind. Yes, you're right. We can get into like a funk with what's called confirmation bias, where we just start looking for information that confirms what we already believe. But I think it's important going into the next couple of hearings. There's a hearing on the 9th. I think there's another one. I believe it's the 26th. I could be off on that day or two, but somewhere around there. And then the trial. And I just, I'm urging everyone, let's keep an open mind going into everything and just see what we learn. Thank you so much, Bushit. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much, Patricia, for the $5 super sticker. Wow, you guys, thank you so much. I'm not ending. We still have some more stuff to dig into, but I don't want to get to the very end and not at least say thank you to our producers, and Jazz, Sasha Angel, George Brown, Pepper, and Lisa Fazio. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our channel members. This is so nice. If you guys do not see your name and you're a channel member and your name's not on this list, please let me know in the comment section so I can check and see. And if you don't see it and you're not sure, let me know and I'll double check, and I'd rather you let me know than not let me know and have your name not be up here, because I am not perfect. I could leave someone's name off the list by mistake, but I hopefully have gotten everybody on there. And then thank you so much. This is super thanks and coffee gratitude for the last few days. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. And thank you for your gifted channel memberships and jobs. And I'm going to be gifting 10 memberships as a celebration for hitting 40,000 subscribers. So we'll do that together. All right. So let's go through. Let me add this back in. Oh, there it is. Okay. Let me just move this back. Let me move myself over here. Okay, so let's keep going. So as we still have all the coincidences to dig into, you guys. We have, and I haven't taken your questions. Kim, let me take a couple comments and then we'll dig into all the coincidences. Kim says, oh, where'd you go, Kim? There you are. She says he worked at a butcher shop, but he is a vegan. Sounds like he wanted to practice cutting. I heard he was also very OCD, strange guy. Yeah, and he did work. So the fish fillet, people have was interesting because the dog was described as being filleted. And remember, this is before Bryan Kohberger was arrested. Nobody knew who had done the crimes at 1122 King Road House. Maybe law enforcement was thinking something, but certainly the two owners of Buddy the dog did not know. But then to find out that he worked in a butcher shop and he worked as a fish fillet, maybe the fish fillet, in and of itself, the owner said he wasn't very good at it. But then you see this butcher shop for 4 months and it's like, well, that's odd. DE says, I remember those neighbors complaining all the noise from the college kids. Yeah, and it's a college town. So, you're going to have people running around. I don't think body cam footage on that night of kids running around drinking on a weekend night is that surprising. I didn't see the kids on the body cam footage doing anything illegal or nefarious. Looked like they got like a warning from the police officers. But, I just think it's really important to just share that, none of those young people had their DNA on the inside snap of the knife sheath that was found underneath and to the side of Maddie Mogan. So and none of them also had, I'm going to go through all the coincidences in just a second. I'm sure I've left some out, but I just came up with some. And that says, did anyone see a show way back that said BK told a girl he would help her with her security camera? Yeah. Let me grab that really quick. Let me show you what she's talking about. Let me grab that. Okay. This is, let me just take this down. Put this up. Okay, so let's go through that, because I do think this shows, in my opinion, it shows a pattern of behavior. And let me see if I need to move myself out of the way. If I put myself up here, I think that's good. Okay, just want to make sure we can see it. So he broke into a female student's home and spied on her. I have to agree. Okay. So he is believed to have broken into the home of a female student, and he was tending and befriending her. This was a colleague at WSU. He befriended the woman after he moved to Pullman, Washington, to begin in a graduate program at WSU. And my sourcing on this again is The Independent. One day, a woman returned to her apartment and found that someone had broken in, had moved items around, but nothing was missing. And remember, Xana's dad came over to change the locks at the 1122 King Road house because she thought somebody was in her room also, but no reports of a crime. So was this a pattern of behavior? Was he getting trophies? I don't know. But since nothing was taken, she decided not to call the police, but instead called her new friend, Mr. Bryan Kohberger, and asked him to come over. I'm sure he was offering, but he offered, according to this news outlet, and there's multiple things, he offered to install a video security system inside her home, and she agreed because she was scared. This shows to me a certain level of mastermind behavior, in my opinion. Following its installation, investigators believe that Mr. Kohberger used the security cameras to then spy on the woman, because knowing her Wi-Fi password, he was able to tap into the cameras within close proximity to that apartment. The bombshell allegation was revealed in Dateline NBC episode, which reported that Mr. Kohberger is now a strong suspect in this initial break-in. News Nation originally reported the claims last month. So the sourcing on this is The Independent, News Nation, and Dateline NBC. So he tended and befriended a student. Now, criminal profiler Greg Cooper told Dateline that the incident was a step in progression. Remember, we used to think pee-pee toms were harmless. They're not harmless. They escalate. And I'm just wondering if Buddy the dog was another step in that progression. The step in progression for Mr. Kohberger to move from breaking into a home when no one was in, to allegedly break in when multiple people were in the home. And if he escalated there, he said, quote, I would expect that he orchestrated the whole thing. This is some next level masterminding, you guys, to tend and befriend somebody, stage a break-in in their home, offer to call security cameras, and then use those cameras to spy on her. Is some next level masterminding, you guys. He said, I would expect that he orchestrated the whole thing. He was not looking at her as a potential victim necessarily, but he orchestrated it. This is according to the FBI. This is according to an FBI profiler. And this is Greg Cooper. But he orchestrated it so she would come home and he would be able to help her. It's another level of power and domination and control over another person. And how many times have we heard, the power and domination coming into it? The hero image that he can portray. You've got this problem. I'm here to solve it for you. And remember what Dylan says she heard. This is before this article came out. She said that she thought she heard somebody saying, It's okay. I'm here to help you. The hero image he can portray. You've got this problem. I'm here to solve the problem for you and make it better. In the Dateline episode, sources also revealed that Mr. Kohberger's sister was growing suspicious and that her brother could have been responsible for the the crimes, when the family gathered to spend the holidays there. And this, a lot of people have been telling me in the comment section, they believe that it's possible that his sister is, may have called law enforcement. I don't know, but I do know that the prosecution said they do not want his family to be sitting in for the trial because they're planning to call some of them as witnesses. Is it his sister? Is there a history of this? Why is his family being called as witnesses, you guys? So in mid-December, Mr. Kohberger left his student rental home in Pullman, Washington, to travel across the country with his father back to the family's home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania for the holidays. During this time, his family members noticed he was behaving somewhat bizarrely. A source said that Mr. Kohberger was constantly wearing latex gloves, including inside their own home. So I can see if you're outside shopping, maybe you're germophobic, but why are you wearing them inside the house? One of his two sisters began to wonder if he could have played a part in the crimes. And at one point, she raised her concern with her other family members. She, quote, loudly pointed out that at the time of the M's, her brother was living just a few miles away from the crime scene and that he drove a white Hyundai Elantra, the make and color of the vehicle at the center of the investigation. So along with a bizarre tendency to wear latex gloves all the time, she also believed that the family should consider that Mr. Kohberger might have done away with the 4 victims. Mr. Kohberger's father allegedly defended his son and insisted he could not have been involved. But her suspicions were so great that at one point, several family members searched Mr. Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra for possible evidence of this crime. At that point, police said that Mr. Kohberger had already been spotted cleaning his car out with bleach. This is according to law enforcement. Remember, I told you that law enforcement, when they had him under surveillance before they swatted the house, they pointed out that BK had already been spotted cleaning his car out with bleach so that family members didn't find anything of note. But we know that law enforcement found something in that car because Ann Taylor tried to suppress the search warrant for that Hyundai Elantra. So law enforcement did find something. She claimed early on there was no DNA, but that was a long time ago. So I don't know. Is there more DNA than besides just Maddie's fingernails, which Ann Taylor doesn't want the jury to see? If this excluded Bryan Kohberger and brought into play an alternative perpetrator, Ann Taylor would for sure want the jury to see this. So why doesn't she want the DNA that was found under Maddie's fingernails to be shown to the jury either? It's not clear if Mr. Kohberger was aware of his family members' suspicions that he could have been behind these crimes. I mean, they use the M word, or what potential prior behavior may have led his own sister to suspect him capable of carrying out such a brutal crime. Soon after the hours of December 30th, the law enforcement swooped in on the family home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, and arrested him. At the time of his arrest, they said BK was wide awake. So this was in the wee hours of the morning. He was standing in the kitchen wearing latex gloves and putting on his personal trash into plastic bags, taking it out to neighbors' trash. So this is where he was separating out his personal trash from his parents' trash, and he was putting his personal trash in neighbors' trash cans. And if you recall from how that house sits, it probably sits on at least a half acre. So there's he would have had to have walked a little bit. It wasn't like the trash cans were right next to each other. He would have had to have gone down the block a little ways to put it into a neighbor's trash can. But we've since learned that when Bryan Kohberger was arrested, they did ultimately arrest him in his bedroom. Now, maybe he just startled when they came through into the house and made a run into the bedroom. But that's where he was that was where they took him down. But they said they were probably watching him on a scope. I mean, think about this. This was a SWAT team. They would have had their rifles pointed at the house. So they were probably watching him through their scope, which is just, scary. That they said that he was in the kitchen wearing latex gloves, putting his personal trash in plastic bags to take out to a neighbor's trash can. And the attorney close to Mr. Kohberger's family just declined to comment to Dateline NBC. So they did have a chance to speak out. They declined. So there's Anna and Ethan. We don't know what the motive is, but let's, think about this. If Papa Rogers does link back to Bryan Kohberger, to me, that will show a motive. It shows, and depending on what book, they said something was underlined, page 118, but we don't know what book it is. If it's linked in any way to Elliot Rogers, who was an incel, then this could be the motive. I don't know. And prosecution doesn't have to show a motive, but I think juries like to know why. They want to know why this happened. So, the Hyundai Elantra, was caught on the surveillance footage at the crime scene. Now, Ann Taylor wants all the cameras, all the first surveillance footage not to be shown to the jury. And again, if this exonerated Bryan Kohberger, she would be okay with letting this camera footage in. And her reason, she says she doesn't have time to go through 12 hours of footage of the car. She doesn't have time to go through it. 12 hours, even though we're 4 months out from the trial. I don't think the judge is going to not let this footage in. I'll be very shocked if he says, "Oh yeah, you don't have time with 4 months to go." Sure, is there any other evidence you don't have time to go through? Because I'm going to disallow all the evidence that you don't want because you don't have time to go through it. I don't think that dog's going to hunt. Maybe she's looking for an extension to put off the trial a little bit longer. I don't know if that dog is going to hunt either, because I think that, he's trying to keep this on schedule. We'll see what he decides. She was really successful with the Latah County judge in getting extensions, though. And I mean, it is going to be 2.5 years since the crimes were committed when this finally goes to trial. So we still don't know about the reddish cover on the bed. We don't know what the reddish brown stains were. We don't know who this blood belongs to. We don't know about possible human and animal strands. And the animal strands, if these link back to Buddy the dog, or if these link back to Murphy the dog, this is a problem. Because even though Buddy the dog was inside Kaylee's room and wouldn't have access to Bryan Kohberger, Kaylee and Maddie would have had hairs, in my opinion, from playing with Murphy the dog. Kaylee, so there could have been transfers of animal hairs. They also found a disposable glove and a computer, but interesting enough, no shower curtain. But if you look at this image, you can see there is clearly a shower curtain to the right. It might just be a liner, but there is clearly a shower curtain in that shower. So the fact that it was gone when law enforcement came in, in and of itself doesn't mean he did anything, but it is starting to, things are starting to pile up, in my opinion. We're going to talk about what those things are in just a second. So please stay with me. Let me check in with chat. Thank you again so much to all of our mods today. Annette says, has law enforcement ever looked into any other similar crimes in Pennsylvania? I don't know. That's a great question. Not that I've heard, but I don't know. Yeah, please be respectful, especially to the victims. If they, Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana, if you're, I don't even know what to think about somebody that couldn't be respectful of victims. Mrs. O wants to know, didn't his sister call the police? Well, some, like I just shared with you, some, and I'm assuming you asked me this before, but yeah, some outlets have shared that maybe, that his sister maybe was a whistleblower here. Top Cat said, not me. We don't know the full story. There's a mountain of evidence against Bryan Kohberger. DM says, I think they're either unintentional genetic informants or maybe one of them turned him in. Yeah, that could be too. Pinky LaRue says, wait, I know he was at the scene at 9 a.m., but days after his phone pings at the 1122 or at that park. No, I didn't say that. He was at the scene at 9 a.m. and this photograph was taken at 10:21 a.m. on the morning of the crimes. So I think this is my theory. It's so speculation warning. There's only a theory. I think this is what I think happened. He committed the crimes allegedly. He's innocent until proven guilty. and he went home, and he was probably felt pretty good. I'm sure he showered, because we know Bethany saw somebody stripping off things at the door. And I showed you guys the sourcing on that during our last live stream. So Bethany is going to be an eyewitness. I showed you guys a couple live streams ago how Ann Taylor wanted to talk to Bethany, but then once Bethany sat down with her and her private investigator, and she found out what Bethany had to say, she then tried to exclude Bethany as an eyewitness witness from the trial. So again, if this was helping to exonerate Bryan Kohberger, she would want Bethany to come in and say that. So this was taken at 10:21. So I think that 9 a.m. visit where his phone is pinging at the 1122 King Road house was either him going back to see, if law enforcement had been called. Was there, a big circus around all of this? Was or he realized he didn't have that knife sheath. This is what I think is more likely. I think he was meticulous. I think he was, the fact that the way that he masterminded the WSU student where he tended and befriended her, got her to let him install security cameras and then use them to spy on her. That shows, next level mastermind, in my opinion. And again, he's innocent until proven guilty. But I am talking about this case in terms of Bryan Kohberger because he's the one on trial here. But I think the fact that, he went back at 9 a.m. that morning, and I told you guys, I showed you guys that Ann Taylor slipped up and said it was his car. She admitted it was his car during a hearing. It fell out of her mouth, and I showed you guys her saying that. And in the context, because I didn't want anybody to say I took a statement of hers out of context. I showed the whole context of everything leading up to it and what she said, because I was televising the trial on my channel at the hearing on my channel at the time. And at that time, I didn't catch it. It was when I went back to review the footage of when I caught her, because everybody was asking me, why did BK leave? Why was he so upset? Why didn't he, he usually thanks his attorneys. Why did he leave in such a hurried manner? And I was like, well, why did he? So I went back and reviewed the footage, and then I heard what she said. And I'm like, oh, that's why he's furious. She admitted that it was his car. Yeah, I would be mad too if I were him. So yeah, so let's keep going, guys. And we're going to get into all of the coincidences. Hey, the Jewel. Didn't his sister call the police? I don't know if they did. They had him under surveillance, I think, already. So Tom says AT is a clown. She claims not to have time to go through 12 hours of video, yet she delayed the trial for 2 years. She also had a team to watch the video. She doesn't have to herself if she's too lazy. And I think, I'm just wondering what the judge is going to think about this. Hold on. Thank you. I'm just wondering what the judge is going to think about this too, Tom, if he's going to have a similar feeling of like, you think I'm going to exclude evidence? Is there any other evidence, Ms. Taylor, that you would like me to exclude because you don't have time to go through it? I just feel like I can just, I'm waiting to see his face. I'm going to be airing this trial. We're going to watch it together. Thank you so much for modding today, you guys. Thank you, Pepper. Thank you, and Jazz. Please be respectful of those in the chat. Yeah, please don't do any victim blaming. We don't do that here. And we try not to add each other. We try to keep it, pretty classy in the chat. Annette says, has law enforcement ever looked into any other similar crimes in Pennsylvania? I don't know, is the short answer. Jay says, yeah, I think so. Or I do recall his sister at least saying something about him having weird behavior. Yeah, and according to this article, she brought it up to family members. So I'm wondering, because we're hearing now that the prosecution does not want all of his family to be allowed to sit in for the trial because they are planning to call family members as witnesses. So I was like, oh, does this go back to this article that I reported on last year about his sister being the one that, was raising the alarm with the family? What else did she see? What else did she report? Increase Mathers says, didn't they find something in his neighbor's trash? I don't know if they went into the neighbor's trash or not. What they did find was, just what I reported out to you, which he was separating his trash. Law enforcement had him under surveillance for a couple of days prior to arresting him. They watched him separating his trash from his parents' trash. And he was reportedly, allegedly, walking his personal trash down to neighbors' trash cans and disposing of his trash into their trash cans in Pennsylvania. Lene says, does anyone know the date that BK arrived in Pennsylvania? I could see somebody waiting so long to clean up possible evidence. Well, in my opinion, you're talking about the car, I'm assuming. I'm thinking that one of the reasons that he would have wanted to have had used his own vehicle was, one, he knew he was going to change his tags 5 days later, which is what he did. Two, if he would have rented a car, it would have traced back to him, but he wouldn't have had as many chances to clean it. I think this car, we'll have to wait till the trial, but in my opinion, speculation warning, I suspect this car was cleaned multiple times, not just while he was at his parents' house, but multiple times after this crime was committed. Mike says, yeah, I'm curious to his movements up to his dad arriving. Yeah, we don't know much about that. We do know there was this weird detour, that he and his dad took. They were driving from Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, from Pullman, Washington to Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. That's a pretty straight shot. It's like this. But they took this 9-hour detour. Now, there was a snowstorm, so I can see going an hour or two out of your way. But this 9-hour detour was kind of weird. We still don't know why that happened. Maybe that's related to why his dad is somebody's going to be called as a witness in the family. Maybe it's his sister. I don't know. Patricia said, in my opinion, BK's sister told law enforcement when to look for the Amazon purchase on specific dates. I don't know, but they did have a warrant for Amazon. And I reported out to you guys last year that I did have it from multiple credible sourcing that BK had purchased a K-bar knife in the spring of 2022. So now to find out, solidly in motions, court documents, that he did indeed purchase that Amazon K-bar knife. He also purchased a knife sheath, and he also purchased a knife sharpener, all from Amazon. And then to even make it worse for himself, after these crimes were committed, he went back in and searched again for another K-bar knife on Amazon. And law enforcement didn't find a K-bar knife in his Pullman apartment, in his car, in his parents' Albrightsville, Pennsylvania house, or anywhere. His office at Washington State University, where those 4 places where they had search warrants, they didn't find the K-bar. So where did the K-bar knife go? Where did the knife sheath go? We didn't see either of those. So the knife sheath, I believe, was found underneath and to the side of Maddie, allegedly, in my opinion. And the K-bar knife, I believe he disposed of. And I think that was the real reason for the visit down to Clarkston that day. Annette said he was in Pennsylvania when he got the K-bar. Yeah, so I think he was probably thinking about this for a long time. And, I guess, and we also have heard, I showed you credible sourcing on this also, that he had pictures of one of the victims on his phone. And then I showed you guys, people didn't want to take news outlet sources as, being the source for Bryan Kohberger following Kaylee and Maddie on Instagram. So I showed you scientific research that had been done that proved he was following Kaylee and Maddie on Instagram, also in a live stream that I did. So some of the stuff I'm telling you guys, I reported out a year ago. So anyway, I hope you guys can see I have really tried hard to stay away from, just conspiracy stuff like there's tunnels under the house and that kind of nonsense. And I really have tried to bring you guys credible information, because I believe you deserve credible information, and that I'm, bringing things that are sourced from credible sources. This doesn't mean I'm right all the time on every single thing, but I do try really hard to bring you guys credibly sourced information on this case, so you guys can make up your own mind of what you guys think. Ann Taylor was making all kinds of claims before she had discovery. Right, she did. And I don't know, at that time she could pronounce these things as being true, but I don't know if it's because she hadn't gone through the evidence yet, because we heard repeatedly she didn't have everything. Now she's not saying that she has everything. Now she's saying, well, I have everything, but I don't have time to go through I don't have time to go through the video footage. That's a crucial piece of evidence. And I would think you would make time to go through that if I were the judge, I would say, we'll hire somebody for 3 days to go through that footage for you. How much do you need to hire somebody to go through that? I mean, I don't know what he's gonna do on that, but it just feels like it might be a Hail Mary. Let's throw everything against the wall and see what kind of what the spaghetti noodles, what sticks. Or maybe BK's asking her to file these motions. But Jewel says, remember studying criminology, he would also know what is gathered as evidence, hence the gloves. Yeah, he sure would. He would know, definitely. So let's go through all the coincidences. Let's go through those together next. Hey, Carol, I'm glad you're here today. Synap says he had no idea they were following him. I don't think he knew. And it's really kind of scary to think about the fact that they were watching him. Was this, that day? So, they had rifles. They were probably watching him through a scope. So kind of scary stuff. Jay, thank you so much. If I said thank you for this already, I'm so sorry. Jay, thank you so much for the $1.99 super sticker. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'd rather overthink than underthink. Okay, so it's me, Mike. Thanks so much for reminding. He says hiding DNA. He thought maybe he wasn't expecting an arrest yet. I don't know. And he had a DNA kit on him, swabs. They found buccal swabs. I keep saying buccal swabs, sorry, but it's pronounced buccal swabs. Somebody was kind enough in the comment section to let me know it's buccal swabs. So why did he have those at his parents' house in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania? What about the ID that was found inside a box, inside a glove? Who does that belong to? Sasha says he's done waiting. It's a slam dunk. I don't know about that because I think Ann Taylor is ferocious. I think she's going to put up a good defense, but we'll see. Diana says his face was covered with that ski mask. Yeah. Like I said, I bet he wasn't expecting an arrest yet. I don't know. When they got pulled over for those 2 traffic stops, he and his dad, when they were driving from Albrightsville, or driving from Pullman, Washington to Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, they got stopped twice, within a 30-minute period for tailgating. Either he was tailgating, seriously enough, or maybe they were trying to get his hands and wrists and face on body cam footage. I don't know. Or maybe it just was a coincidence that they stopped him twice. But if I would have been Bryan Kohberger and I would have seen that they stopped me twice, I would have been wondering. And they asked him where he's going. He doesn't say, I'm going to Pennsylvania. He tells them that he's going for Thai food. Christy said Ann Taylor doesn't want to go through the video because she knows it will prove. Yeah. Well, we already heard her say, you're right, Christy. We already heard her say that it was his car. And I showed you guys in context what she said. And I aired the whole hearing. So you could go watch the whole entire hearing if you want to. Buddy and then Murphy the dog. Yeah. And I'm wondering if this is why I could not get those records on Buddy the dog. When I called, I got passed around to multiple people yesterday and I couldn't, I was emailed a form to fill out for a FOIA request for Bryan Kohberger and the Idaho 4 case, but I was not given a FOIA request for Buddy the dog. No. And I'm not sure why. I'm going to follow up on that. I'll follow up again next week to see what else I can find out. Bab says, does anyone think he'll try a last minute Alford plea? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know if he will. I don't know if at this point, tell me what you guys think. I don't know if the prosecution is going to offer a plea deal because, clearly from listening to Steve Goncalves, he is not on board with any type of he wants this to be a capital case. I don't know if Bryan Kohberger would plead guilty. So I don't know. It's a great question, Bob. So I wish I had it. Definitely a shower curtain. Oh yeah, there's a shower curtain in that photo. So some people said, oh, he probably didn't have a shower curtain. I was, told that I don't have a shower curtain. I'm like, but he lived on the second floor. If he lived there, I'm sure he would have to have a shower curtain because otherwise your water would run out of your shower into the unit below you. So I just thought it was weird. Buddy and Murphy. Yeah, Buddy is the dog that was done away with on October 21st. Murphy survived all this. Triple says, I wonder if BK shut Murphy in the room. I don't think so. I think that he went into Maddie's room and he was, allegedly he's innocent until proven guilty. But I think the perpetrator went into Maddie's room, and I don't think the perpetrator was expecting Kaylee to be in that room. And they had put the dog into Kaylee's room so they could sleep. And that might have saved his life. And Justice, thank you for hitting the thumbs up button. All right, let's go through all the coincidences, you guys, because there are a lot. If you're just joining me, you'll definitely want to back up this live stream because I have gone through a lot of really important information, a lot of breaking news in this case. But I do feel like the coincidences are starting to add up. Let me know what you think. Bryan Kohberger had his DNA on the knife sheath that was found underneath and to the side of Maddie. I think this is a huge problem for Ann Taylor, which is why she was trying everything to get the IgG DNA thrown out. But ultimately, that's not what the prosecution is going to be presenting at the trial. They're going to be presenting the DNA that was collected, not from his parents' trash can, but the DNA that was collected from his buccal swab, his cheek swab, that was done with a court order after he was arrested. So we know that's one of the coincidences. Number 2 coincidence, Bryan Kohberger drives a white Hyundai Elantra. 3, Bryan Kohberger has bushy eyebrows. We know that Ann Taylor tried to say that she didn't think the words bushy eyebrows should be allowed to be said. She doesn't want the word psychopath. She doesn't want the word sociopath. She doesn't want bushy eyebrows. She doesn't want the M word, even though this is a capital case for 4 people being M'd. She doesn't want that word to be allowed in court. This is what she's demanding. We know that BK posted the photo of himself in the bathroom at 10:21 a.m. the morning of the crime. Steve Goncalves feels like this is a trophy shot, that this is him giving himself a thumbs up. We know that BK matches the height and the build of the perpetrator. He's more than 6 feet tall. He's athletic looking, but not muscular. He's got bushy eyebrows. We know that Ann Taylor, his alibi is that he was stargazing on a foggy, overcast night. And I just showed you the proof that it was foggy and overcast. Kind of an odd night to be stargazing. But Ann Taylor, in my opinion, had to put him in the car. Number 7, BK purchased a K-bar knife, a K-bar knife sheath, and a knife sharpener on Amazon in the spring of 2022, as I reported out to you guys last year. And now we know it was in March specifically, and that it was indeed on Amazon. 8, BK was searching for another K-bar knife just after the November 13th, 2022 crimes. And profiler Pat Brown said, what happened to his knife? Why wasn't it found in why wasn't it found in his Pullman apartment? Why wasn't it found at his parents' Albrightsville, Pennsylvania home? Why wasn't it found in the car? Why wasn't it found in his office? Where is the knife? The fact that he didn't have a knife and that he was looking for another one and he didn't have that one is a problem, in my opinion. It's a lot of coincidences. Number 9, BK's cell phone was pinging at the 1122 King Road house 11 times leading up to the crime, and again at 9 a.m. the morning of the crimes. And I believe these are going to be lined up with geofencing with Bluetooth handshakes. And I showed you guys why I believe that. Bryan Kohberger was following Maddie and Kaylee on Instagram. That's number 10. He was following them on Instagram. And I showed you guys the research out from Shadow Dragon to prove that, if you didn't want to take any of the journalistic sources. And I've showed you guys multiple journalistic sources on that as well. So he followed them on Instagram. He was DMing Maddie. According to Christy and Steve Goncalves, he was liking all of Maddie's photographs. We do know that law enforcement did put a search warrant out to Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. I believe there is a reason why that warrant went out to Meta. 11, Bryan Kohberger's shower curtain disappeared from his Pullman, Washington apartment. It was taken down when he left for his Christmas break with his father, Michael Kohberger. Who takes down their shower curtain before they go on vacation? Why would you take that down? You don't pack your shower curtain to go visit your parents at their house. So why take down the shower curtain? I think even the fact that his cell phone was switched off during the crimes is a problem for the defense team, because they can't put him anywhere else, because this, like the prosecution said, Ray can't even testify to where he was during the crimes because his phone was turned off. So not in airplane mode like we've heard before. The prosecution, according to them at least, the phone was off. Number 12, Maddie and Xana both worked at the Mad Greek, and Kaylee used to work at the Mad Greek, which is known to have a good vegan menu. And according to an employee, BK visited the Mad Greek. Now, the owner of the Mad Greek denies this, but if you're a restaurant owner, do you know every single person that comes in every single day, every single minute to your restaurant? And maybe you don't want to be associated with this crime, right? But Kaylee and Maddie and Xana were either currently or had worked at the Mad Greek. Kaylee used to work there. Number 13, Bryan Kohberger changed his Hyundai Elantra car tags just 5 days after the November 13th crimes. Again, in and of itself, each of one of these things can just be, but it's a lot of coincidences. And this is going to be a circumstantial case. So in my opinion, from a jury's point of view, it's going to be a lot of things for Ann Taylor and the defense team to have to explain away. So changing your car tags in and of itself, not a crime, but the fact that it was done 5 days after, in my opinion, explains why he was more likely to use his own vehicle versus borrowing or renting a vehicle. He would have been able to clean it as many times as he wanted. He would have been able to maintain control of the vehicle, and he knew he was going to change those car tags 5 days later. He knew he was going to do it. 14, Bryan Kohberger had blisters on his thumb in the November 13th photograph, then that thumbs up photo. There's blisters. I've had people say, but it's his left hand, he's right-handed, it's his right hand, he's left-handed. I don't know what handed he is, and I don't know if this picture was taken with the mirror images, but you can not, it could have been that the image is reversed. So we're going to have to wait until either somebody files a motion to explain this. I've had people tell me he's ambidextrous. I don't know. We're going to have to wait till the prosecution presents this. But my understanding is they're just presenting this in terms of his eyebrows. I don't know if they're planning to present the blisters, but they are noticeable. BK's cell phone is turned off during the time of the crimes. We originally didn't know if they were turned off, if it was turned off or in airplane mode, but I think this is a problem. Also, that it just happens to be turned off. They have it on while he's traveling to the house at 1122 King Road. Allegedly, he's innocent until proven guilty. They have the phone turned on as he's leaving from the house, but during the actual crimes, it's turned off. 16, the likelihood ratio of BK's DNA being under Maddie's fingernails is not something that Ann Taylor and the defense team want the jury to see. This means it's not good for Bryan Kohberger. If this was helping Bryan Kohberger, if this was going to help him, if this some way implicated that another person committed that crime, she would want the jury to see it. The fact that she is trying to exclude the DNA that was found underneath Maddie's fingernails means that the likelihood ratio that it belonged to Bryan Kohberger is something that Ann Taylor does not want the jury to consider, which means it's not zero. I don't know what it is, but it's not zero. Now, she wrote, Mr. Kohberger's inconclusive likelihood ratio is similar to almost every other person for whom a likelihood ratio was generated, and focusing on his inconclusive likelihood ratio would mislead the jury in that it implies that the likelihood ratio means that Mr. Kohberger's DNA may be present in the sample. This is according to defense attorney Becca Barlow. So that's not saying it's zero. That's not saying it's only 1% likelihood that it's Bryan Kohberger. This is saying, well, we don't want the jury to see it because it might confuse them. I don't know what the judge is going to decide. I just want to share both sides of the argument. But again, if this evidence was good for Bryan Kohberger, why is the defense team working so hard to keep them from seeing the DNA that was found under Maddie's fingernails? If it exonerated him and was inconclusive, why wouldn't they want the jury to see that? Look, Maddie has DNA under her fingernails. It doesn't belong to my client. But I think the likelihood ratio is a problem. I think the prosecution is going to show a statistic, in my opinion, that hurts Bryan Kohberger statistically, that it's more likely his DNA under Maddie's fingernails, and combine that with the DNA that we know is in the octillion range. Octillion. That's 8, not million, 1 billion, 2, octillion 8. That he's a match to the DNA found underneath in the knife sheath that was found underneath and to the side of Maddie, to me is very, very huge problem. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to leave it there. I am going to head over. I'm late to do a Sebastian Rogers live stream. I'm sorry I'm late on that one. I was worried I wouldn't be able to get through everything. So just want to say thank you so much for coming by to spend a little bit of time with me. Please drop me a comment in the comment section below and let me know what you think about all of this. Please subscribe and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.